The L machine does not stop handing L's to PlayStation over and over again. These past 48 hours have been actually insane with everything going on. The fact that PlayStation has no games now, apparently. At the same time, they also have no lead developers, because we're going to talk about that too. And on top of that, the developers they did buy for $3.6 billion just got caught stealing art assets directly from somebody else on Twitter. This has got to be the most insane thing I've honestly ever seen. But as we talk about here, it always tends to get worse. You see, because it turns out the day before yesterday that PlayStation executive Jade Raymond has left the studio she founded. Remember that really weird, bad-looking game, Fair Games? Yeah, that whole thing, purple and yellow scheme color game, number 5,475 coming at you again? Yeah, that's going to be going down the actual... Because it turns out with Jade leaving, things aren't looking good at all. According to Forbes, Jade Raymond, the founder and head of Sony Group Corp's game developer Haven Studios, has left the company. PlayStation leadership didn't give Haven staff a reason for her departure, but it came several weeks after an external test of Haven's first game, the online shooter Fair Games. According to people with knowledge of the matter, some developers at Haven were concerned about how the game was received and its progress, said the people who asked not to be identified because they aren't authorized to speak publicly. So what happened? Well, let's break it down literally for you guys. Pretty much they took Fair Games because we knew it was going to be mid the second we saw the trailer. They let people play test it out in the public, and it turns out it was probably going to be a bunch of garbage. The fact that nobody wanted to play that at all. Another mid-game being lauded out as a live service monopolistic practice title. So yeah, that's definitely going to be the factor for that game, and I'm sure if that game even comes out at the first place and isn't canceled, it's going to bomb again. Another Concord 2.0 for the good old PlayStation brand, my boys. Your live service MAU drastic approach really isn't doing well for you guys now, is it? The best part about it is, though, you can honestly kind of bet, and I would be betting on my end, that they more than likely fired Jade Raymond because of this, seeing as how it was a couple of weeks later after this test even happened. That, or she tried to save herself some face and just walked off the actual project, leaving a development studio that Sony went ahead, funded directly out of their own pockets to make this game completely high and dry. So that could also mean that if this game doesn't do well, the studio is also going to get shut down. Boy, y'all are batting 1,000 over there at PlayStation now, aren't you? First it was the 12 live service games, now this, and Concord. But hey, 77 million consoles sold! But the hits don't stop coming for Sony directly, because it turns out a Twitter user called Anti-Real posted this the other day, saying, "The Marathon Alpha released recently, and its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs I made back in 2017. At Bungie, at Joseph A. Cross." Whoa, this is a pretty big allegation to happen. Of course, though, this isn't going to be the first time these allegations didn't come forward to Bungie as well. In fact, this is going to now be the 4th time it happens to Bungie. No, I'm not kidding. You see, back in 2021, they used fan art of Xivu Arath in a trailer without credit. In 2023, they used near identical fan art in a cutscene. And in 2024, they copied the design for Nerf replica identical patterns. And now in 2025, they used Anti-Real's artwork directly inside of Marathon. Man, this is not a good look at all for these guys. Imagine falling so far from grace and being caught up in your own hubris of what Bungie used to be. The fact that they made the Halo games, the fact that they made Marathon in the past, and now they can't even get their own artwork to be done correctly. But you know what? Hey, it's an allegation, right? There's got to be proof to be shown, right? There has to be some way of proving that Anti-Real is in fact correct. Well, let's see what they had to say. In a follow-up tweet, Anti-Real writes this: "Bungie is of course not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I have refined for the last decade. But clearly, my work was good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over their game without pay or attribution. I don't have the resources nor the energy to spare to pursue this legally, but I have lost count of the number of times a major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or steal my work than to write me an email. In 10 years, I have never made a consistent income from this work, and I am tired of designers from huge companies mood boarding and parasiting my designs while I struggle to make a living. Now, AnyReal then goes ahead to post more of their own artwork on Twitter, showcasing, hey, these are back from 2017, and then they showed the actual artwork from what Marathon is doing now, and it is literally one-to-one, ripped directly apart from AnyReal's actual portfolio. The fact that Bungie has been doing this before, the fact that all of these things have happened are now leading up to this directly. I don't know what PlayStation saw inside of Bungie for $3.6 billion. It is an actual waste of resources, money, and time. Personally, Bungie should have been left out to dry for the past year because clearly they have done nothing. They were responsible for the reason why PlayStation players don't have Last of Us Factions 2. They're the reason why so many other games are going to go live service for that actual company. They are the reason why so many things are inside of PlayStation, the actual PlayStation that so many people actually enjoy, which is their single-player narrative-driven games. This company, for some reason, has had some insane foothold happen inside of what PlayStation wants to do. It has been astronomically insane. And the crazier part is PlayStation is putting more of their board of directors into Bungie directly, because this isn't the first time Bungie's been in hot water. Remember, they had to fire a ton of people. They had to stave away PlayStation from doing a full-on takeover. And my guess is, after this, and the failure of what Marathon is going to be, that's going to be happening quicker than we think. At some point, I am going to be betting that PlayStation will in fact absorb Bungie directly, either go ahead and keep them in name alone and fire everybody else in that studio, or at some point to shut the whole thing down, because absolutely clearly there is so much garbage attached to this studio. It is mind-numbing how anybody thought buying them would be a good idea. Way to go, Jim Ryan. You sure picked a good one. It honestly always tends to get worse though, because apparently DualShockers wrote an article, you know, that PlayStation biased propaganda website. Yeah, here's the quote that they put out recently. "I'm completely floored," she wrote. "This is my full-time job. I sell these posters online. They're not obscure. A major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or trace rather than license or commission the work." AnyReal, in fact, caught wind of this quote and tweeted it saying this: "Insane fake quote, LOL. I am unemployed at DualShockers. Now we have actual PlayStation fanboy websites trying to run damage control with fake quotes from the artist that Bungie literally ripped from inside of their actual article to try and like save this in some weird way." Why? Just post what she said, bros. That's why your website gets zero traffic. That's the only people that visit your website are in fact fanboys. The only thing keeping you alive is that, what, 2% player base right now? How anybody could take any of these websites seriously is insane to me. The only website, the only journalist that did their fucking job was Gene, I'm a badass motherfucking Park. He actually had an interview with AnyReal, and he went ahead and did his actual job as a journalist, unlike every other clown on this hellscape of a website. How is this so hard for everybody? Y'all are literally handing Gene the W every single day. Good job, Gene. And you know what? I know there's going to be people trying to defend this. Oh, but Alex, how can you prove that? How can they prove that? It's all the same kind of art. Like, it's all that cyber futuristic Wipeout kind of style. You can't prove it's theirs. You can't prove Bungie stole it. Check this out. See, AnyReal made this tweet back in 2024 in June saying this: "I hid loss in my designs 6 years ago and nobody caught on." What is loss, you might be asking? It's from a comic called CAD, or Control-Alt-Delete, that was pretty popular back in the 2000s. Yes, I'm literally aging myself. The comic had to deal with actual loss. One of the characters had a miscarriage throughout the actual comic, and it became a massive meme, seeing as how the the comic was mostly about video games, and Tim Buckley decided to use it as his personal escape from trying to talk about what happened to him personally. The thing is, though, this comic became such a ubiquitous process that artists who were into minimalism began to draw these 4 panels directly as these specific lines. I'll put it on the big screen for you guys here. So they would mimic that directly. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, how did they put Loss, which is basically a CAD comic, with these lines inside of their actual artwork? Well, Augment_1 on Twitter found Anti-Real's original post back in 2024 and posted this image saying, "Here from the future. If anyone doubts the theft of your art, this also confirms it," with a literal screenshot of Marathon in game and the actual minimalist design of Lost being directly shown full front and center. It cannot be any better. It cannot be any clearer. The fact that these people in Bungie went around and were actually following Anti-Real directly for multiple years to go ahead and literally lift all their artwork and assets, not even do any sort of like, hey, don't copy me directly, bro, make it look a little bit different, you know what I'm saying, and put it directly into their game is astonishingly stupid, idiotic, moronic, and how anybody could sit here and defend Bungie after all of this is truly asinine to me. But of course, in fact, it always gets worse, because here is the actual statement on Twitter from the Marathon dev team, and we're going to talk about this statement in a moment. "We immediately investigated a concern regarding unauthorized use of artist decals in Marathon and confirmed that a former Bungie artist included these in a texture sheet that was ultimately used in-game. This issue was unknown by our existing art team, and we are still reviewing how this oversight occurred. We take matters like this very seriously. We have reached out to Anti-Real to discuss the issue and are committed to do right by the artist. As a matter of policy, we do not use the work of artists without their permission. To prevent similar issues in the future, we are conducting a thorough review of our in-game assets, specifically those done by the former Bungie artists, and are implementing stricter checks to document all artist contributions. We value the creativity and dedication of all artists who contribute to our games, and we are committed to doing right by them. Thank you for bringing this to our attention." Let's talk about this set of tweets, by the way, because things don't make a lot of sense. Number one, this is on a side account of the Marathon team. This is not on actual Bungie's main account. That's number one. They had to siphon this away to a side account that isn't even gold stamped on Twitter to show, hey, we messed up. Here is the issue. At the second point, going around and blaming it on one artist doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You know why? Because big games like this always get reviewed by so many other people inside of an industry and inside of a development team. Everything gets passed through multiple values of checks and rechecks to do anything that happens to go in the game. The fact that one guy could just walk around and put a bunch of assets from an artist that they follow on Twitter and nobody caught on and nobody checked it and everybody was like, yeah, it looks good, go great, go right ahead with it, is truly insane to me. Consistently watching Bungie go ahead and literally plagiarize from so many other artists year over year, occurrence after occurrence, and nobody has taken them to task. Marathon has already been on a downward decline. The fact that other games like Arc Raiders have gotten far more popular simply by just being a little bit different and honestly a whole lot better. When you have everything going wrong for Marathon, everything going wrong for PlayStation, all of these things put together, this is a powder keg of actual idiocy happening directly for these companies and developers. The fact that AAA games and developers and studios cannot get their literal shit together long enough to realize, hey, don't steal from other artists, and then at the same time, just make a good game. And they have the audacity and the gall to charge you $80 or even $40 or $50 for this pile of crap. The fact that everybody was hyping up Marathon completely. Bungie was going to be on the comeback, baby. They They can't even get their own fucking game right. Why is PlayStation even listening to these people in the first place? Like I said before, the fact that AAA game companies are expecting more money from us, where they're literally going around and stealing from other artists to go ahead and pad their wallets and not pay any arbitration or even just hire that artist onto the staff of artists directly so they can be part of the team, would have just been the easiest thing to do. Hey, AnyReal, we love your artwork. We want to put it in our game. Do you want a job? Paying them $60K a year is a lot better than having to deal with a lawsuit. And personally, I hope AnyReal sues Bungie. It would literally be in their best interest to do so because there is so much evidence against this development team and studio that it could clearly win the case. And you know what? Here's the thing. Usually I'll put a link to Starforge PCs in the description down below or in the comment section, first pin comment. No, we're going to put AnyReal's Coffee page. So if you want to go ahead and support AnyReal directly, you totally can. And honestly, I've been looking for someone to do some merch with lately, so you might even catch a DM from me as well, AnyReal. Just keep an eye out for that. Please don't ignore me. Please, that'd be terrible. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think about this entire thing in the comments section down below. Personally, I feel like PlayStation is going to be making some changes pretty soon. And honestly, maybe even some drastic ones. So we'll stay tuned and find out for that. But if you want to see more of this kind of content, more PC port reviews, gaming news, Steam Deck videos, fanboy content, and live streams every Saturday night, 8:45 p.m. Eastern, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 83,000 subs. And I just want to say, thank you guys so very much. If you want Discord access or emotes during live streams, become a YouTube member. It's as low as $1. If you don't want to spend the buck, don't sweat it. Saturday nights, 8:45 p.m. Eastern. Just come on down, hang out, and watch as a ton of people get to insult me using AI TTS. Trust me, it's a hell of a time. With all that being said, though, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you have a great one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace!